Seats, bring your drinks, come on through to sit down. If you want to move through, just bring your drinks with you, come to the seats. Well, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome. For those of you at the back who have drinks, please feel free to come and bring them and sit in the seats, and we'll kick off and get underway. Well, ladies and gentlemen, my name is John Grimes. I'm the Chief Executive of the Smart Energy Council. And the Smart Energy Council is very pleased to be hosting our networking drinks tonight. The theme of our drinks is Australia, Brazil, global renewable drinks for industry and for advocates. Tonight we've got three really fantastic speakers for you. First we'll be hearing from the Federal Energy Minister, Chris Bowen. We'll then hear from Rodrigo Ruidoso, who's from the Brazilian Solar Energy Industry Association. And finally, from Sonia Dunlop, who is with the Global Solar Council. So before we kick off, let me just give you a little bit of important context. One of the most consequential things that is likely to come out of this COP negotiation is a global agreement to the tripling of renewable energy between now and 2030. And this is significant because this is an initiative that was incubated by the peak global industry associations. It was taken up by industry associations in every part of the world, and it has been successfully executed and brought to a head here at COP. In my view, ladies and gentlemen, governments and policy have been very well represented at COP over the years, finance, the community, but the industry has not been a cohesive and loud enough voice. And we are, friends, a powerful voice, because it is industry, at the end of the day, that will drive the innovation, create the products, and roll them out to the market that will actually lead the transformation of the global economy, that will get us to our COP objectives. So we're very pleased tonight to be talking in that context about our associations globally. I'd like to call on Minister Bowen to come and just say a few words. Before we do that, though, Minister, I just want to single out your leadership and your dedication. The work that Minister Bowen has done, not just in transforming Australia's renewable program, our policy landscape, in a very consequential way, most recently with the Capacity Investment Scheme announcements, but a whole raft of measures, but now stepping into a role on the global stage. I acknowledge Minister McAllister, who's actually been called upon to help co-chair a key important work stream here at the COP. That is Australia playing the role of an honest broker and, once again, disproportionately impacting the trajectory of these talks and this whole agenda. So a massive shout out and thank you to the Australian government, to Minister Bowen and Minister McAllister and the whole team who just put in tireless hours of work that is often unseen and unrecognised by industry. And Minister, I want to say that we see you, we see your work, We're very grateful for your leadership, and we thank you very much for your support tonight. Minister Chris Bowen.
Well, thanks very much, John, and at the risk of this becoming a Mutual Admiration Society meeting, John's a very important leader for renewable energy in Australia, but increasingly, John and the Smart Energy Council are important leaders internationally as well, and the work you've done, if I could just single out your work in India, as being particularly important, but I know you don't confine yourself to that, but that's one where you've really added value, and you're no small part of our plans for Australia to become a renewable energy superpower is the work you and your team does at the Smart Energy Council. Well, friends, welcome. I'm delighted to be here to say a few words of welcome to our Australian pavilion, to our Australian friends, to our Brazilian friends, and to friends who aren't from Australia or Brazil, but are, just coming along to enjoy some Australian-Brazilian hospitality. That's okay too. Of course, Brazil and Australia aren't countries that have traditionally had an enormous amount to do with each other, it's true to say, but increasingly we will and will have to. And if countries that are the same or similar keep talking to each other and not to countries that have a different perspective, then we are not going to deal with this global crisis. So Australia and Brazil are both under, shall we say, progressive management at the moment, which is a good thing and can work together. And of course, we very much support Brazil in their efforts as incoming chair of the G20, and I say a very likely COP hosts of COP30. And indeed, if Australia's honoured to be able to host COP31, we'd be very keen to work with Brazil as co-chairs or chairs in successive years, because as we know, no COP alone, no one COP can get the entire job done. Each COP's got to build on the progress and success of the last COP. And we certainly hope Brazil hosts a very successful and productive COP. I would very much look forward to that. Very much look forward to going to Brazil for your COP. And very much I know the leadership that the Brazilian government will play, both as chair of the G20 and hopefully as a COP host as well. So it's been a very strong and productive COP so far in terms of, as you said, 138 countries signing on to a very important pledge to triple renewable energy and double energy efficiency. That's no small deal, and to get so many countries signing on to that was a major achievement. We were very honoured to be one, pleased to be one, and we're certainly working very hard. I've just come from negotiation sessions, going back to negotiation sessions, etc. We're making progress, but until it's all done, none of it's done. But I am quietly confident of a good, solid outcome here at this COP in terms of the final product. And that's important for the messages it sends to the world about how to invest, where to invest, the very strong consensus across governments about the journey and about the inexorable and inevitable need to really double down and triple down on the renewable energy efforts. So you're all very welcome here at the Australian Pavilion. Thanks again for your leadership, John, and SEC's leadership, and I look very much forward to ongoing leadership and collaboration with you and with friends in Brazil. Thank you very much.
Minister, thank you. We'd now like to call on our speaker, Rodrigo Pedroso, from the Brazilian Industry Association, AB Solar. And the relationship with Brazil is something very dear to my heart. I had the privilege of living in Brazil as a Rotary Exchange student in 1987. So I went to small rural town Brazil, 1987. I arrived not speaking a single word of Portuguese. I lived in a community where nobody spoke a single word of English. And so at the end of that time, I was fully immersed. I was Brazilian na meu coração. And so it gives me a whole lot of pleasure to be reconnecting with Brazil and to, at the industry association level, really pushing that relationship. Here's two big ideas for some work between Brazil and Australia in the lead up to COP30, COP31 and beyond. The first is we are both massive agricultural countries, we're big mining countries, we're big countries, right? And Brazil is one of the largest exporters of iron ore, as is Australia. In Australia, we have plans to take iron ore and use renewable energy to process it to create iron pellets to decarbonise the steel industry globally. Wouldn't it be a great initiative for Australia and Brazil to be partners in a green steel decarbonisation world? The second opportunity, friends, is pulling emissions out of agriculture. And I'm talking about fertiliser, I'm talking about renewable hydrogen being turned into renewable ammonia and using renewable ammonia in the fertiliser that actually feeds the world in Brazil, in India, in Australia and many other parts of the world. So an opportunity for a joint vision around emissions reductions in agriculture. Let me please introduce you, Rodrigo. Welcome, and we look forward to hearing you speak. Thank you.
Good night, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. It's an honor to be invited by John to be here. Minister Chris Bowen, it's a pleasure to represent Brazil here. As you said, it has a very strong relationship with Australia, and I think this relationship can grow as much as possible, and for sure the relationship between the industries and John for sure is the most recommended person to get this intersection between the countries. I'm very glad to be here. As you know, the solar business in Brazil, it's growing very fast. We reached a few days ago more than 36 gigawatts of installed capacity. We are expecting the next year increase more 10 gigawatts on our electric matrix. The solar is the second largest on the electric matrix in Brazil. The 60% is almost hydro, and then solar with 15. And we expected in the next 20 years, solar will be the first. So we are very confident that solar can reach this position, because as we grow on the last few years, as you know, Brazil has the biggest hydro power plant in energy production in the world. That's called Hydro Itaipu. And Hydro Itaipu has 14 gigawatts of installed capacity. Last year, in the last 14 months, the solar business delivered one Itaipu hydro power plant. And besides, the hydro power plant of Itaipu took 16 years to be built in Brazil, and 50 years to pay their debt. And the solar payback in Brazil is almost 3.5 and 4 years. So we have more than $36 billion in investments in solar business in Brazil. We employed more than 1 million people, and those employees is high-level employees, as you know, to work on this industry. We paid more than $10 billion in taxes for the government, and we avoided more than 42 million tons of CO2. So I'm very confident as a representative of the Brazilian Solar Photovoltaic Association that we are very well placed as a business and as a country. And as you know, the next 2 years, the COP will be happening in Brazil, the COP30, on the heart of the Amazon. That's the biggest forest in the world. We are very happy to welcome the world to see how big is Brazil, how strong is Brazil. We have our electric matrix 85% renewable. The solar is contributing, as I said, much and much more. And we need to show it to the world, not only by newspaper and by TV news, but you need to come to Brazil to see how big is our country. And I'm very happy that in the next year, the COP will happen in Australia, and I think it's very stronger, the relationship between our countries as well. I'm very happy to be here, John, and I think we can be more closer and closer. As you said, you went to Brazil a few years ago, and I think you need to come right now, but with more people speaking English, I hope, and you speaking your Portuguese as well. Is very good as well. Thank you so much.
And our final speaker tonight is Sonia Dunlop. Sonia is incredibly impressive. She is the Chief Executive of the Global Solar Council. Now, many of the peak industry bodies around the world worked very hard. Actually, Bruce was one of those who helped form the Global Solar Council. The Smartergy Council, AB Solar were all instrumental in setting up the Global Solar Council. And to have a leader with your experience and background, Sonia, we're just so delighted to have you here. Sonia helped deliver the COP in Glasgow. She's worked extensively across Europe. She knows this industry really well. She holds 5 passports. One of them is a New Zealand passport. So don't hold that against her. Please welcome Sonia to the stage.
Yes, I'm afraid to say I am technically half Kiwi, although you would never guess it from my very plummy British accent. But it's great to be here, and thank you so much, John. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Rodrigo. You are fantastic members of the Global Solar Council, so thank you for all your support. My name's Sonia Dunlop. I'm the CEO of the Global Solar Council, the Global Solar PV Industry Trade Association. I'm also here as Vice Chair of the Global Renewables Alliance, which is for the first time bringing together solar, wind, hydro, geothermal, long-duration storage, and green hydrogen under one umbrella to push for the global tripling of renewables target by 2030, by the end of the decade. And boy, we've made so much progress. 138 countries have backed it. All we need now, I mean, that already sends an incredible market signal to global financial markets and more. But all we need now is for Australia and other countries to get it into the final negotiated outcome here in Dubai, slip it into the official conclusions, and then I'll be the happiest woman alive. We want to see a tripling of renewables to 11 terawatts by 2030. We want to see a doubling of energy efficiency. Of course, by extension, we want to see a phasing down and then a phasing out of fossil fuels. We want to see ambition on renewables scaling up, electricity and heat, action and accountability. And solar can deliver on so many of these things. Solar can deliver on energy access, pulling people out of poverty, transforming the lives of people across the developing world who currently have no access to electricity. Solar can deliver on bringing energy bills down. There's like millions of households across Australia who are already generating their own power from their roofs. And solar can also deliver on resilience to climate impacts and resilience to natural disasters. And resilience and adaptation is a really important part of what we're going to do over the next 5-10 years. I've scribbled down a little action plan for you, Minister, a little diplomatic rhythm of what we're going to do over the next couple of years for renewables. So we're going to Baku next year in Azerbaijan. They have a bob or two. They have a bit of spare cash. They're going to sort the financing of renewables. By COP29, I want the financing of renewables to be done. By COP30 in Manaus, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, I want to have sorted the grid problems, the permitting problems, and the planning problems. Just small things, really, nothing major. By COP31, I want to see a free, fair, open trade system for renewables, and then, trust me, we will fly all the way to the end of the decade. So thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for all you're doing to get the official tripling of renewables target and the doubling of energy efficiency and progress on fossil fuels into the final negotiating text. Please all get your own governments to do the same, and we will see you in Baku, in Manaus, and then hopefully in Sydney or somewhere else in your beautiful country. Thank you.
Finally, ladies and gentlemen, a big shout out to Integrated Energy, David Kavanagh. David, are you here in the room? No? For helping sponsor tonight's drinks event. Ladies and gentlemen, networking drinks means drinks and networking. Free to go. Thanks for attending. All the best.